Hello, folks. Myself, Dr. Mahantesh, Associate Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, SJBIT Bangalore. Through this video, I would like to introduce Python application programming, which is an open elective offered to an UG course during their 6th semester, that is third year. Python application programming is a very interesting subject. Uh, you see nowadays, like you've been advanced to machine learning, data analytics, and so far we can see like we have a lot of data to be analyzed. In order to do analysis on a particular data, it might be a medical, it might be a science, it might be a statistical, geographical, satellite, image, and so on. So it requires a huge computational tool. In fact, Python application programming is designed in such a way that it uses advanced technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence. Of course, artificial intelligence is a part of machine learning, neural networks, and quite oftenly we use data analytics in order to solve some highly complex structure of the data and analyze it. Let us see what are the modules that we are going to cover in our course. Okay, so this is a very confined syllabus. I can see in module 1 some basics like why should we learn programming, variables, expressions, and statements, how you can represent those in Python, conditional execution and functions as well. For 8 hours, module 2 consists of iteration, strings, and files. Module 3, list, dictionaries, tuple, regular expressions. In module 4, it's classes, objects, classes, functions, classes, and methods. In module 5, we shall make use of all the above 4 modules and try to implement those techniques which we have learned, the prior knowledge on network programs, using web services, using databases and SQL. And the referred textbooks are Charles A. Python for Everybody, Exploring Data Using Python, and Think Python by Alan B. Downey. Both are available on as a free source online. We shall go to the next slide. So why should you learn to write program, or why do we need programming skills? See, programming is a very creative and rewarding activity which solves data analysis problem, which I already mentioned. It integrates operating system and a set of applications. Like, see, I need to do a task, a particular task. I want to do a particular task by the computer or by some program. So it creates a link, it bridges a thinking capacity of maybe a human being as well as a working model of a computer. So it creates a personal digital assistant. Since we all know computers are very fast with vast amount of memory, it could bring the data onto the compiler and do the analysis, and it's very robust, and of course it can perform repetitive task. Example, counting most number of words used in the above slide. In this slide, how many times y has been used, u has been used, fast has been used. Say for example, I just like to highlight those things. This is fast, this is u, and this is u, and of course only two u's has been used unfortunately, so your computer might take such a long time just in order to say u has been used out of so many statements or so many words. Let us go to the next slide. So what is a computer hardware architecture? As all of you know by this time, so it consists of input and output devices with a central processing unit, main memory communicating with the CPU, and of course CPU is connected to the network, and of course secondary memory. So you can see like there might be a communication between the network as well as central processing unit and main memory and a secondary memory. If this is full, so you can make use of this secondary memory where the huge amount of data can be stored in the secondary memory, and of course in the network is already available, huge amount of data is there, and the software is the one which connects all these different entities, IO devices, memory, network. So what's next? Words and sentences. Unlike human languages, Python vocabulary is actually pretty small, a kind of a reserved word. See, we have a certain amount of restricted words, just like your MS Word dictionary. We have certain amount of reserved words, and the only one meaning to Python, and that those things can be understandable only by Python. Programs are created or written using own words that have meaning to us called variables. So what are variables? Which we declare it for our purpose, so that that becomes customized. It has got a great latitude choosing variables. You can create your own, you can customize, you can use Python reserved words. Say for example, train a dog, we use a special reserved word like sit, stay and fetch. Suppose if you call some other word to the dog, it may not understand, so it has to be trained. Again, the dog has to be trained by a particular specific word. So such variables you can either you user define it, or you can use already been trained by the Python vocabulary. So let us just quickly move on to a basic programming. Say we have a syntax, say for example print hello world in double quotes. Most of the times you use single quotes, double quotes, both. It depends upon the version which you are using. So hello world, it say this is a prompt. We will see in future like what is prompt, what just for the sake of an example, you can see like print hello world. So it prints hello world. Print, you must be the legendary god that comes to, you can blah blah something like that into your print statement. It will print whatever you print inside this braces. So say for example, if you want to print, use the print statement, we will have a feast tonight unless you say. So print, so there will be a syntax error. Why? Because Python understand only the print statement will be used with the braces, with the common braces inside the single code. Here it is not, the syntax is not proper. That means there is missing parenthesis in call to print. So it is calling a function called print, but it's missing with a parenthesis which we mention it as print. So in continuation, we all know what are interpreters, what are compiler. Python is an interpreter, and when we are running Python interactively, we can type a line to Python, and Python processes it immediately and is ready for us to type another line of Python program. Whereas compiler, you have to write a bunch of codes, and the entire program as a file is to process to translate the high level source code into a machine level language. So what is the interpreter? Interpreter is the one wherein which the you type a program or you try to execute set of commands, and you instantly you generate the result or a solution or an answer. Whereas in a compiler, it needs to be written as a complete program, and then it has to be compiled, check for the syntax, then generate the solution or program. We have just mentioned how does a machine level language program looks like. So we have interpreters and compilers that allows to write in high level languages like Python or C. Now what is a program? So program is nothing but a sequence of syntax or a Python statements, but these Python statements are placed logically. Say for example, let's say we are doing social computing research on Facebook post, and you're interested in the most frequently used words in series of posts. Okay, so that example leads to the definition of a program wherein which you have defined some objectives in your program, and those objectives are converted to a logic, and a logic you making use of a syntax help of a Python programming, and you're going to arrange it in a sequential order in order to find how many times the most frequently used word in a series of posts can be identified. What are variables, expressions, and statement? Variables can be defined in different ways like values and types. What is a value? Value is nothing but a particular, whether it's an integer, a floating point integer, or a string, or an alphabet. So it can be anything. We have seen so far 1, 2, and hello world, for example, in your previous example. So what is the type of 4? Say for example, you can see a couple of examples here. Print 4, you have made to print 4. We have not used single quote for this to print a number, but if you want to print a string, it has to be inside a single quote. So just you can see what is the type of this particular variable. So what is the type of this variable? Type of the variable is string. What is the type of 17? It is an integer value. What is the type of 3.2? Again, it is an integer value. What is the type of 3.2? It's a floating point value. It's a small mistake over here, so it has to be rectified. So what is the type? Type is an integer. 2 is an integer. Hello word is a string, so called, because it contains a string of letters. So you and the interpreter can identify strings because they are enclosed in quotation mark. You can see this. Okay, that is how the Python can be dealt. What is a statement? Statement is a unit of codes. You can see a couple of codes which produces an output, or it can be a sequence of statements. If there is more than one statement, the result appear one at a time. See, here in this example, I have used two print statement, whereas I have assigned a value, an integer value, to a variable called x. So unless and until you specify some value to be printed, it will not be printed. You can see just an example. At the first execution, first level, we have printed 1, so it will be printed as 1. This is an output window. Whereas if you assign a variable called x, been assigned with the value 2, you can see print x. Again, it has been assigned, the assigned value will be printed. So this looks like a statement which is used more than one Python statement. So precedence, order of operations. So you might be heard about rules of precedence where more than one operator appears in an expression. Say for example, plus, minus, division, multiplication, mod. So far you can see a couple of statements, and it's appearing in as a statement in a single, what do you say, like a code. So you can remember easily. The acronym is PMDAS. P means parenthesis, exponential, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. So this, you have to remember these rules. Why? Because if you use all these operators in a line or on a particular line of codes, so what will be executed first? So it will be a parenthesis. The next priority is given to exponential, multiplication, division, addition and subtraction. Same precedences are evaluated from left to right. Say for example, if you have two parentheses, if you have two exponential, right, so it has to be evaluated from left to right if repeating precedences. Next comes your modulus operator, works on integers and yields the remainder. See, this is very important. Why? Because when the first operand is divided by the second one, say for example 7 bar 3. So if you ask to print this variables, yeah, just mention it as quotient. Why? Because by default it gives you the quotient value. So 7 divided by 3. So 7 is divisible by 3 and 2 is the quotient. What is the remainder? Remainder is 1. So if you want to print the remainder, you have to use this modulus operator. So this is a forward, sorry, what do you call for this? As a backward slash. So it can be used as a modulus operator if you want to type what? A quotient. So if you want a remainder, you can use a percentile symbol in order to find the remainder. These are just for our convenience. I had called it as quotient as well as remainder. Conditional execution. We have a couple of conditional executions, like if this is right, okay, you can do this work. No, if this is not, it's kind of a logical, a boolean expressions like yes or no, 1 or 0. Okay, So I have just used an if statement here. Very carefully you should observe. If is a conditional statement. If x greater than 0, that means if x has got a value of greater than 0, you can see it is separated by f x greater than 0, and this is a colon. So this is a syntax for your conditional statement, and this followed by an indentation. Indentation is nothing but you are going to give a space, so it is skipped. So if x greater than 0, so you will be going to print x is positive, of course, because it is greater than 0. And if it is less than 0, what shall be done? So this will not be printed, that's it. So whatever statement that you are going to type or put it below after indentation, so those statements will be executed only if this condition is satisfied. You can see the flow chart is given as if x greater than 0, yes, print x is positive, else it will come out of the loop. Chain condition, I have used couple of if else statements, like if x less than y, it's less than y, greater than y, else I have given a default x and y are equal. You can see here, if choice equal to a also, print bad guess, choice equal to b, print, and then you just try to type it choice equal to a, so it will be printing bad guess, if b, good guess, and so on. So else if and elif, just kindly observe a small things, two things here. If I have three conditions, two or more conditions, if followed by elif, second condition, else by default, so that it signifies there is no further conditional statement. So it is called as chain conditions, and we are going to use an open braces. Try and except. So here, what if there is a conditional execution structure built into Python to handle these types of expected and unexpected errors. So try and except to handle exceptions. If, say for example, I have declared a variable called inp is equal to input, it will prompt an user to enter some value. So it will try if an input variable, if I enter a number, say for example, if I enter an integer or floating point, whatever it is, but not string. Say for example, if I have entered, given an input as string here, so what it will do, it will try if this is not an integer value or a floating point value. Here I have declared it as floating point value. If it is not a floating point value, the given input value is not a floating point value, it will come to this condition and it will say except print please enter a number. If it is an integer or floating, by default floating can be considered. If it is a floating point value, this input value is given here, taken here, and this will convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay, so and this will be printed. So you can again please take care of this indentations. So try if the given value is what, satisfied by some condition, except if that doesn't satisfy this condition. So this is very good. Okay, yeah. So math functions, if I want to use a math functions or a built-in modules or functions or methods that will be dealt in future in detail, we are going to use a dot notation. Sometimes we call it as invocations, but here we call it, let us try to make it very simple. Here I am going to call it as a dot notation. Okay, for example, you can see what is the value of pi. What is the value of pi? It's 3.14 and so on. Suppose if I want to use couple of math symbols like logarithm to the base 10, dot pi value, and so on. So you have to import a class called math. Once you import math, so math dot pi gets the variable pi from the math module. This is the entire module. Say for example, SJBIT has got different branches: electronics, electrical, computer science, information science, civil, mechanical. So if you want to call mechanical department, you have to import SJBIT first and followed by the dot notation SJBIT dot EC. Say for example, if you want to call EC department, so very similar to that. This looks like SJBIT and this looks like ECE. So go to SJBIT and fetch ECE. So go to math module and fetch pi value. So by default this pi value will be 3.14 and 3.44 degrees. Degrees is given as some value as 45. So 45 divided by 360 into 2 into 2 pi gives you the value, and I want a sign of that. You can see the sign operator is also used. So in math function you have several such mathematical operators. Adding new function. Suppose if I want to add a new function to my module, say for example I want to print I am a lumberjack and I am okay, I sleep all night and I work all the day. So whenever you so this new function, adding a new function is defined in terms of def print underscore lyrics. This is user defined, you need not worry about this. And what I am trying to do, if I call this print underscore lyrics, it will simply print two statements, that is I am a lumberjack and I am okay, I'll sleep all night and I'll work all day. I hope this we are not doing, but still just for the sake of an example I have considered this. Okay, yeah, so I have defined a function. This is just like a df math, and I have pi is equal to 3.14, something like that. And if I call print lyrics dot pi or math dot pi, I'll get 3.14 as an answer. So df is a keyword that indicates that this is a function, and again be careful with these indentations. First line of function is called header, rest is called body. So this is a header and the rest is called body. So we shall discuss more in future. So how to return a function? This is a very quick example. Df add to a comma b. So this is a small function which I had defined. So now if I pass an argument, some variables as an argument inside this function, what is this function? Add to. You can see this function has been created which will add two variables, that is a plus b, and returns the value added. Okay, whenever you call this function with an input arguments like this, say for example x is equal to add 2. So what is an answer? 3 comma 5. What is an answer? Print x. So print x will give you 8. Okay, hope you have enjoyed this video. It is just an introduction. We shall see more. Okay folks, thank you. Have a nice day.